We're in the midst of a period in film history that will be recognized as the point at which CGI began to mix flawlessly with live action. Over the last few decades, Hollywood blockbusters have become increasingly reliant on visual effects, but recent technological advancements have brought feats in VFX production that were once deemed unattainable well within reach. Stay tuned to find out how Avatar looked without CGI and some of the tricks they used to achieve such insane CGI effects. What does Avatar look like without CGI? James Cameron should never be underestimated. Whenever someone tries to count him out, the prolific writer-director outperforms everyone else, creates a massively profitable hit. People who predicted that Titanic would be a huge flop were astounded by the film's incredible success. People who expected Cameron to fail with Avatar, his ambitious special effects, heavy sci-fi action thriller, were startled to see this passion project turn into Cameron's chance to surpass himself and recover the top spot on the all-time charts. There's no denying that this imaginative filmmaker knows how to win, which makes any allegations that his next Avatar sequels won't be successful dubious for the time being. The man knows how to make hits, and Avatar is undoubtedly one of his crown jewels. The route to its success was littered with hard battles and difficulties, but Cameron overcame them all. Let's look at some fascinating behind-the-scenes details from 2009's Avatar. While many people consider Avatar's aesthetics to be its greatest achievement, immersion, the experience of being there without any distracting signals that the planet and its characters are computer-generated, is a better term. It's difficult to bring characters to life in a believable way. The first attempt, a Final Fantasy. The spirits within failed spectacularly. The reason is psychological. While the brain can read a simple stick figure as a human, perceived realism improves as the complexity of the character develops, until the character is almost but not quite alive. Such a persona appears to be alive, but he or she is not. This was perfectly achieved in Avatar. While we know it isn't real and doesn't look like any being we know today, they do a fantastic job of creating a realistic-looking alien creature. Performance capture. James Cameron intended to create beautiful, sexy characters that you can fall in love with, and based on different forum discussions, it appears that Neytiri had that effect, and the normal rough motion capture was insufficient. Cameron and his colleagues created the term performance capture, which refers to recording all of an actor's nuances, body language, and emotions and transferring them to a computer equivalent. They use unique solutions from Giant Studios, which was in charge of all motion capture, as well as a helmet-mounted camera hooked to a rod that sat in front of the performers' heads, allowing them to capture face expressions as well as entire body movements. The helmets also had ears and braids, which let the actors stay aware of their surroundings. They also used up to 12 HD cameras to capture the actors from various angles in wide and close-ups in order to preserve all the small details. This method allowed the animators at Weta to focus solely on bringing up every element of the original performance, such as subtle winks, hair swaying, and ear movement. It was also a boon for actors who can now focus on what they do best, communicating emotions, without having to worry about boring minutiae like markings, lighting, and costumes. Motion capture was also employed for animals, with actors as stand-ins, as well as helicopters and banshees. This allows for more natural motion routes and better connection with the performers, especially tricky for helicopters, which sway in their path in a way only a helicopter pilot can describe. Although the Weta animators still had to fine-tune the motion and add all the essential details, the main motion route was previously been provided to them in the format that the filmmakers desired. So you can imagine, without this CGI effect, the actors would simply be making different faces and essentially acting as normal, but just covered in probes and sensors. Yes, it would look very strange, but it's those strange outfits that make such movie magic. They also used real-time feedback. One key issue with working with CGI-heavy films is that the performers perform in an empty area, making it impossible for everyone, actors, cameramen, and directors, to envision how the final product would look. As a result, James Cameron and his crew created a virtual camera that was connected to Motion Builder and allowed them to see the virtual environments in real time. Everyone has their own camera eye and sensibility, and it's really tough to convey that through an intermediate intermediary, said Rob Legato, alluding to the conventional method, which required animators to handle camera movement with variations requiring weeks to complete. They'd move the camera in the empty set and the virtual camera within the simulated environment for Avatar, all while the actors' movements were collected and adapted to their digital models. Instead of filming a scene with actors, having the motion interpreted later, and receiving an animation weeks later, the production crew could see the results right away, giving them valuable feedback to fine-tune the details. They were able to abandon the use of storyboards and simply explore as a result of this strategy. They could test 15 to 20 different camera angles, broader, lower, to obtain the best look. When a scene was finished, it was sent to Weta, who replaced the low-res models with high-res ones, tweaked the details, and rendered the scene. The Simulcam, a device that allowed them to execute real-time compositing over a green screen, was another innovative feature. So they'd film actors in locations that required digital extensions, like the hangar bay, and the composited product would appear in the viewfinder, with digital backgrounds replacing the green screen. Needless to say, this is a big benefit for those working behind the camera, since they can immediately see how the scene will look and frame it. Very fine attention to detail. The creatures began as paper drawings before being digitally sculpted with ZBrush, Maya, XSI, and 3ds Max were used to create the vehicles. Stan Winston Studios created full-size models of basic Na'vi male and female characters, which were then laser scanned and altered to create the avatars. The avatars had to bear some similarity to their operators, therefore incorporating traits from human personalities was a task in and of itself. Furthermore, a face conformation that was too dissimilar to the actor's face did not transition well to face performance capture, which is why the Na'vi ended up appearing remarkably similar to the actors portraying them. To be able to fully capture all the nuances of the body language, the Weta artist created all of the face muscles, fat, and tissue, as well as using state-of-the-art light models and shaders to give the sense of depth beneath the skin, replacing the usual subsurface scattering model with a subsurface absorption model. The modeling and texturing of the models and characters had to go through multiple iterations, since when one character's model became more realistic, every other CGI near it began to look blatantly artificial and needed to be upgraded as well. Other behind-the-scenes details: Lord of the Rings inspired Avatar. The release of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy was a defining moment. J.R.R. Tolkien's epic fantasy writings were brought to life with such lavish visual and narrative magnificence, reflecting the franchise's joy and wonder in extraordinarily vivid, beautiful detail. It's regarded as one of the best Millennium film adaptations, and it's understandable. Jackson's enthralling trilogy is a work of art in terms of plot, character development, imagery, and special effects brilliance. The invention of Gollum, beautifully played through motion capture by Andy Serkis, is one of the most astounding achievements from the Lord of the Rings saga. James Cameron felt that his superb performance, matched by the incredible Weta CGI special effects, was an incredible step forward for CG effects. Cameron states that seeing Gollum on screen convinced him that Avatar was possible in an interview. Avatar was the most expensive movie to make at the time of its release. James Cameron does not produce films on a shoestring budget, especially these days. He imagines worlds that surround the screen, virtually bursting at the seams, thanks to his grandiose ideas and costly mythology. To make such extraordinary innovations a reality, a substantial sum of money must be put on the table. Titanic was not a low-budget production, but Fox was repaid tenfold for the critically acclaimed film. As a result, it's understandable that they willingly gave Cameron whatever funds he needed to accomplish his current idea. Fox, on the other hand, spent a significant amount of money. According to reports, Avatar cost $237 million to make, not including advertising materials. It's a lot of money for a single film, especially by 2009 standards. But considering Avatar's huge popularity, Fox CEO James Giannopoulos concedes it was money well spent. Insane, right? A budget of over $230 million. Luckily, it did so well, otherwise they could have made significant losses at that price. And there you have it, everything you need to know about Avatar and some of the CGI effects and what it would look like without the weird and wonderful world of CGI and computer effects. It's truly fascinating what they can achieve now in the film world in this modern, technological age, and it's definitely set to get better and more realistic in the next decade. Make sure to let us know your thoughts down below. Did any of this CGI info surprise you? Did you know this is how they make those scenes? Let us know. But if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss any of our new and upcoming content. Thanks for watching.